Hi, this is Beth Drucker from Go Green, Illinois, which I co-host with Kim Stone from Highland Park. Thanks to all of you for coming for our 66th meeting. We've been going since 2013. The topic today is making your community a better place to bike. We are pleased to have people from 30 different suburbs in Chicago here to learn about the importance of bike advocacy and how we can all work together for that, the interconnection that's so important for cyclists. If you have questions, we would like to make sure that you put them in the chat. So we'll keep an eye on the chat and we will pull the questions up from the chat. If you'd like to rename yourself and indicate, what community you're from, you can do that on your the three dots at the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And I want to tell you, we're going to be talking to local, state, and national bike advocates throughout this program. It will be recorded and available. We will be sending you a follow-up with that link. And so we're going to be talking to Ken Obel from North Shore Cycling Advocates and Bike Walk Wilmette, Maggie Czerwinski from Active Transportation Alliance, that's Chicagoland's group, Anna Tang from League of American Bicyclists, that's a national organization, Dave Simmons from the state organization Ride Illinois, Phil Kaplan about how to have bike collections. And then if there's time, we'll be talking to Barbara Ann Miller of the Evanston Bike Club and also with Bike Palatine Club. And so with that, I would like to turn this over to Ken Obel. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's Ken Obel. So I've been asked to speak briefly about local bike advocacy. As Beth mentioned, I'm affiliated with two groups. One is a real group. The other one is actually just more of me and a mailing list. I would love it to be a group. If anybody would care to help out with it, it's a little more regional. I'll give you the quick history. So that's called North Shore Cycling Advocates. I got into the bike advocacy in about 2013. It seems like that must be the magic year for everything starting. When I'd lived here in Wilmette for about 4 years and found out that Sheridan Road was to be resurfaced. And I thought to myself, hey, I wonder about bike lanes. I wonder if IDOT's thinking about doing anything. And the short answer was they weren't really. So I embarked on a bit of a crusade to get them to consider doing something. And since I do a lot of club biking around the North Shore, I reached out to all the different cycling groups, of which there are many, and tried to engage them. And that became the North Shore Cycling Advocates list, which I used to enlist people in various, mostly in Winnetka and Glencoe, which were the responsible and affected areas working with IDOT. And it's, it was a list maybe between 500 and 1,000 people. I email it from time to time, but it's mostly just a list. As a community group, I'm most involved with Beth and Sander and Ann and some others who may be on the call here with Bike Walk Wilmette. So we're a true local advocacy group. Beth can speak to the history, which in a nutshell, it used to be the Wilmette Bicycle Task Force, which was quasi-governmental. It actually was funded by the village, as I understand it, and met with the village regularly. At some point, due to budgetary constraints before my time, that was sort of dissolved, and was sort of happening a little bit intermittently. But when I got back into this advocacy around Sheridan Road, I reached out and found Beth and Tim Perry, and we kind of got things going again. So we're purely a community volunteer group. So what's the importance of a volunteer group? I would say a few things. So that, we have great organizations who are here, Ride Illinois, Active Trans, League of American Bicyclists, on state, state and national levels and Chicago area levels. But, these are organizations that don't have the budgets to be physically present in every single community around the Chicago area. So what the local groups bring is volunteer energy and enthusiasm. We have local knowledge of what needs to be improved. And so when you come together, I think, where you start is with the basics. Does your village have a complete streets policy? Wilmette did not originally. And so we start showing up at board meetings. We start meeting, with each other, start trying to get a core group of people together, and gradually, lobbying and advocating with our village government and staff, which, truth be told, are very receptive generally to the issues that we talk about. And they want to help to the extent they can, but we try to push things forward a little more aggressively. So eventually we got the complete streets policy passed. The next thing is, does your village have a bike plan or a bike walk plan or an active transportation plan or something like that? And we did not. And we were pushing for that. When the village finally had some money recently to put to that, they did. And the bike plan was developed with community input and outside consultants. And now there is a plan. It's been approved by the board and it's now being implemented. Now that the plan is in implementation, our next step was to say, all right, well, who's in charge of implementing and who's going to revisit these recommendations year to year and update them with changing conditions and figure out priorities. So we sort of got involved in that and I would say help steer that perhaps towards our local transportation commission or committee. And so, we show up there at least as often as we can. These are not heavily attended meetings, as most people know. So you can show up with a few people and you can be in conversation with the commissioners and committee members and your board of trustees and, express and advocate for the view of bicycling and walking and active transportation. Beyond that, I think one of the things we're focused on, and we've always been focused on, but now that we've gotten some of these basics, I think what we're looking at is, how do we get the community more involved? How do we just get more people out riding? Anne has always done great work focusing on walkability and bringing walkability experts to leading community walks. She and others have done great work on the schools and safe streets programs for the schools and bike education in the schools. And now we're doing regular during the warm weather local rides, which honestly we struggle to get a lot of people to turn out for, but we're working on it. If you can get young people on your committee who are very social media savvy, that's probably helpful, or younger people anyway. So anyway, those are some of the things that we do at the local level. I think that, if you want biking to advance and active trans to advance in your community, it is helpful to have that local presence, and then you can get the support always. They're very helpful from Active Trans and Ride Illinois and League of American Bicyclists. They have a lot of resources. They do some regional coordination. So I'm sure a lot of us have been on some calls and I haven't been on enough of them, but where local groups can share experience and share successes, share ideas and things like that. But the local presence, I think, is important. And, we're volunteers. We can't give as much time to it as we might like, but, over time, I think we've made pretty good progress at pushing things along. So that's what we do.
All right, Ken, thank you so much for that quick overview of the importance of wheels on the ground. So we're going to go to Maggie Czerwinski. She's been working tirelessly for years with active transportation, and she knows she's giving us the overview of everything that's happening in Chicagoland. So Ken, thank you so much. And Maggie, you're on.
All right, thanks so much. And I'm going to share my screen here real quickly. And please, if I need to wrap up, let me know. Because
All right.
Go on sometimes too long on this topic because my name's Maggie Czerwinski from the Active Transportation Alliance, and 2013 was actually the year I got started in all of this too. So it's funny to hear all of you. We all had the same idea at the same time. So happy to be here, and I wanted to share a bit about what our organization has been working on related to bicycling advocacy, walking advocacy, and how you can all get involved. I wanted to talk a bit about some of our priority campaigns right now and focus on our Safe Streets for All campaign, which is focused on walking and biking safety on our roads, and give you a bit of an overview on the issue, what's needed, and then what can we do about it. And a lot of what Ken just spoke about is what I'll be emphasizing as well, and how you can all get more plugged in. So if you're not familiar with our organization, the Active Transportation Alliance, we're a nonprofit. We are focused on the Chicagoland region, and our mission is to advocate for walking, biking, and public transit to create healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities. And you may have heard of us if you've ever heard of Bike the Drive. That's our big event, our big fundraiser every year, and the date to save is September 1st, and we hope you can make it. And Lakeshore Drive is shut down to bicyclists only, and it's a wonderful event, and hope to see you there. So now, just focusing now on our priority campaigns. So we have 3 campaigns that we're focused on this year and likely into the future. So the 3 are Safe Streets for All. So this is focused on making our streets safer for everyone. So looking at our bike lane network, looking at our trail network, looking at walkability, and looking at slowing cars down and creating a safer space for everyone. Transit That Works is another campaign that's a big priority for us this year. And this is because our CTA, Metra, PACE, our transit system in our region is facing a transit fiscal cliff by the end of 2025. So we need to find a way to keep it running. So that's a big priority, and it's something that definitely affects all modes, because thousands of people or millions of people ride our transit system. And imagine if suddenly that didn't exist, and how that would impact our roads, congestion, and how that would impact people walking and biking and vulnerable road users as well. And then finally, we have a clean and equitable transportation campaign. So this is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector. And I'll speak briefly on those 2 as well, but focusing on Safe Streets for All, just to give you kind of an overview of what the issue is, and its safety. So for decades, our roads have been built to move cars as quickly as possible. And you can see in these statistics here that this is data from Illinois Department of Transportation. And in Illinois, 15 people walking or biking are injured every day. Every other day, a person is killed while walking and biking in Illinois. I just heard news about a couple that was killed while walking in Chicago a couple days ago. And then 3 motorists are killed every day in Illinois. So it's affecting everyone, and it's sad to see these statistics. And but there is something we can do about it. So that's where, us coming together and, our people power can make a difference and actually change our built environment. And here's just a few more stats on fatalities now focused on our region. And you can really see, so the blue chart is showing annual fatalities have been increasing really since the pandemic. And this is a trend not only locally, regionally, but also nationally. And this is focusing on pedestrians and bicyclists fatalities. And you can again see that trend increasing. And actually, just recently, the suburban traffic violence, traffic fatalities have surpassed those of Chicago per person. So, and again, a few more stats. So we've seen that these traffic fatalities spiked during the pandemic. People of color, low income people are more likely to be impacted. And again, most of these fatalities are predictable and they're preventable. So if you haven't seen this infographic, I think this can actually be a powerful information to bring actually to elected officials, to staff, showing, our speed is a problem on our roads. And on the left, you can see that when we travel at 15 miles per hour, our field of vision is much larger than if we're traveling at 30 or 40 miles per hour. And just looking at if someone is hit by a vehicle traveling at 20 miles per hour versus 40 miles per hour, there are vastly different outcomes. So 9 out of 10 pedestrians survive if a vehicle hits them traveling at 20 miles per hour, whereas only 1 out of 10 survive if the vehicle is traveling at 40 miles per hour. So what we've seen really in our region, especially in our suburban communities, is our roads are overbuilt, they're wide, there's a lot of traffic, they're going fast, and it's just creating unsafe spaces for vulnerable road users like people walking and biking. So what can we do about it? What do we need? We need to be designing safer streets. So thinking about slowing speeds, down with narrower travel lanes, creating shorter crossing distances, creating dedicated space for people walking, biking, and accessing transit. So on the left here, this is an example of what we might see around our region, streets that are made for cars. And if you haven't seen this photo before, there's a pedestrian right in the middle there on an island wearing red pants. And that's probably it's not a very comfortable place to be. But there are a lot of tools out there, a lot of design options that can really create safer spaces for everyone. So that middle photo there, that's a bicycle boulevard in the village of Brookfield. So that's, creating a space where bicyclists are prioritized, and it's adding traffic calming to really help create a safer speeds for everyone. And then on the right there, that's a side path, which we're seeing more and more of in our region, but they're great for arterial roads and other busy roads where you really want to create that separation between vehicles and vulnerable road users. And just a few examples throughout our region. So this of bicycle facilities. This is a buffered bike lane. This is in the city of Chicago. So it's creating some extra space for people on a bike. Here is in Evanston, protected bike lane, it just creates a much more comfortable space for a wider range of ages and people of all abilities. And I just recently read about an article for a bicycle lane that it was installed in a city. It was in a different state, but they installed 1 mile of protected bike lane like this, and they saw a 500% increase in bicycling in their community because of that facility. So it can really make a difference in people getting out there and feeling comfortable traveling by bike. Here's another example from Niles, and they did a road diet, also have a protected bike lane. And I know there are some statistics from this particular project that has shown reduction in traffic volume and speeding and increase in safety. Here is some treatment examples of what you can do with an intersection. Intersections can often be high conflict areas, so using paint to really make sure people biking are visible to people in a car. Also traffic calming, and it can be, streetscaping, like adding trees and shrubs. It can be a traffic circle, which can include landscaping. It could be a refuge island or pedestrian island on the right. And then a road diet. So this is a typical 4-lane road, and you can convert it into a 2-lane road with a center turn lane and bicycle lanes on either side. You can add a pedestrian island, creating that shorter distance for people to cross either by foot or bike. So how do we do this? How do we get these facilities in our communities? This is really what Ken was going over. So it's some essentials that can really make a big difference in our communities, and actually, so we can actually see some change happen. So first off, local plans, policies, and committees. So as Ken mentioned, having a complete streets policy, having an active transportation plan where you're really mapping out where are the bike lanes, where is the network, where do we have sidewalk gaps, where do we need better, safer intersections. And that can also help get more of the community involved. And it's, in addition to having policies and plans, having a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee can help a community just make sure those plans aren't just sitting on a shelf, that they're actually being implemented. It can help a community be held accountable for their plans and policies that they've committed to, that they've adopted. So, and then having a local advocacy group. So as Ken mentioned, it can really make all the difference, like that. And a local advocacy group can be very informal. It can be more formal. We've seen groups become nonprofits. And I would say just a couple tips, like if you're thinking about, okay, maybe we want to form a group in our community to kind of help these ideas move forward. finding at least one other person to kind of spearhead this idea with you. And that can go a long way in, you know, keeping it going. But having that advocacy group can really be key to building up a base of supports. And that's what I often hear from staff, from elected official. They say, we just want to know that our community supports these ideas. And if they have no idea if the community is interested in active transportation, then that's not going to be a focus of theirs. But when you have these local advocacy groups, those groups can really act as a resource, but also, you know, show that, like, look at, like, we want this in our community, and there are so many benefits it can bring our community. And so I highly recommend it. We actually have a training program focused on helping communities develop their own advocacy groups. So if you're interested, I'm happy to share more details about that. And then finally, I just wanted to mention, kicking off, I believe in April, all of the counties in our region are going to be developing safety action plans, which will be really focused on finding specific areas in your county that need safety improvements, especially for vulnerable road users. And they're looking to get community feedback to figure out, like, where are those intersections that are dangerous, where people don't feel comfortable, where are the roads that need improvements. So I encourage you to get involved in those county safety action plans once those launch out in April, and I'll be sure to share more details about that as I learn more about them. But I also did want to plug one other resource. So on the right there, this is a map from the Bicycle Pedestrian Database that we worked on with a few groups, Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and Metropolitan Planning Council. And if you don't know if your community has a policy, a complete streets policy, an active transportation plan, a bike ped advisory committee, you can go to that database and you can find out whether or not your community has one of these things. And then it also links actually to the policy or plan. So just a helpful resource so you can start digging into what you have right now. And then in addition to having those plans and policies and those groups, communities are looking for funding. So how do you fund that bike lane project, that sidewalk project? And there are a lot of opportunities out there, and I wanted to just really highlight two in particular. So ITEP is one. It stands for the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, and it is our state's largest source of grant funding for walking, biking, and trail projects. That grant is opening August 2024. So encourage your local communities to apply to that funding. And I'll share some examples in a moment, but also there's a Safe Routes to School grant, which is all about improving walking and biking around schools. The next round of that funding will start in 2025. So both of those programs are every other year. And then there's a number of other funding opportunities. They all have acronyms: CMAQ, TAPS, STP. And I try to make sure to send those out when those opportunities arise in a listserv. So it's a Google group. So I'm happy to add anyone to that listserv so you can find out about upcoming grant opportunities. Just to speak a little bit more to ITEP. So 2022 was the last grant cycle, and it awarded funding to 73 projects. There was about $130 million available this past cycle. And just some examples of some projects that funded in our region. So in Park Forest, a multi-use trail; in Homewood, bike lanes on 183rd Street; in Batavia, state roads, Route 31 is going to be getting a road diet starting this spring. Prospect Heights is working on a sidewalk connectivity project. McHenry County, also sidewalks and a shared use path on Randall Road. And Streamwood is working on a bicycle pedestrian bridge over another state route, Route 53. So it's a great opportunity to fund projects in your community. There's also a lot of programs and events that your community can get involved in, and actually having a local advocacy group like Bike Walk Wilmette is a great way to, is a great kind of base for organizing events and getting the community to participate in these events. So every May, just to plug it, is National Bike Month. So we do celebrate in our region. We have a list of different ideas of things you can do to celebrate. And one of those things is you can organize a community bike ride, get people out on their bike for the start of the season. We host a ride challenge called the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, where you can sign up either as an individual, part of a organization, where you can compete against other groups to see who can track the most miles on your bike, and there are prizes. It's a fun event to participate in during Bike Month. And then there are numerous other programs, and just one example is Move with the Mayor, where mayors can sign up to compete with other communities to see which community is the most physically active. So it's also incorporating walking and other physical activity programming. And then I wanted to mention another resource, and after I'm finished, I'll add a bunch of links to the chat, but a resource we have, it's activetrans.org/making the case. And if you're, essentially there are so many benefits that walking, biking can provide individuals that can be provided to a community. And it's a lot of resources, fact sheets, statistics, presentations about, how to make the case for this. If you're, want to bring these ideas to your elected officials or to your village staff or city staff. And then finally, I wanted to speak briefly about some state policy work that we're involved in that you can also plug into. So state policy is another component of how we can make change happen. Something that we're working on right now it's called the Clean and Equitable Transportation Act, CETA. And there are a few different bills within this act. One is focused on greenhouse gas emissions. One is focused on transit. There's actually another one focused on electrification of vehicles. So I just wanted to talk about these two briefly. So one is greenhouse gas emissions. In Illinois, greenhouse gas emissions, the transportation sector is the largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. So this bill would look at eliminating greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector by 2050. And the idea here is it would prioritize funding clean and equitable transportation projects like walking projects, biking projects, EV projects. So, looking at putting our money, allocating our funding, more of our funding at least, towards these type of active transportation projects. And then another bill we're looking at is a transit bill. So this is looking at how do we make sure our transit system continues to operate after it runs out of federal funding at the end of 2025. So this is looking at reforming transit funding, service, as well as the governance structure of our transit system. So it's something that these two bills and that this entire act is something you can get involved in. We'll be sending out action alerts. We'll have witness slips, and there will be, you have the option to actually meet with elected officials. There's a lobby day for transportation being organized on May 9th, also through the Illinois Environmental Council. And so there will be a number of ways to get involved in state policy work, but that won't be until likely April or May when there will be opportunities to get more involved. But a quick overview about some other ways to get involved. So we do host every other month, we host suburban advocacy calls with Ride Illinois. So I know you'll be hearing from Dave Simmons shortly, but we always love to have people join those calls. They're during lunch and we record them. So if you miss it, or if you're just not able to make a lunchtime call, you can always listen to the recording. We also started a program earlier this year called our Street Team Advocate Training Program. And this is focused on on our state policy work and our priority campaigns. So there's that QR code there if you're interested in joining a training. There's actually one tonight. There's a virtual training from 6 to 8 tonight. So if you're interested in joining, please check out that QR code. And then we're also, as I mentioned earlier, that we have a program where we provide some training on how to organize your own local advocacy campaign. And we are probably going to be organizing an in-person event this summer. So if you're curious about just getting some guidance on that, we'd love to have you join that program. But we also have recordings and online tutorials related to this topic available as well. And then finally, there will be opportunities to get involved in the state policy work, as I mentioned before. And then this is just a listing of just an overview of some dates to save. So tonight, again, is our street team advocacy training. It's virtual. We have another one in person at our downtown Chicago office on March 25th. May 9th is that transportation lobby day if you're interested in going down to Springfield and meeting with your state representatives. May, again, is bike month and the bike to work challenge. This summer, we're hoping to organize the Suburban Advocacy Summit. September 1st is Bike the Drive. And then we are a membership organization. And that end of the year, we have our annual member party. So we always love to have new faces join us for that. And there is my contact information, Maggie at activetrans.org. So I'm always happy to hear from people. So feel free to reach out. And if you'd like to join that listserv that we have, I'm happy to add you, but I'll go ahead and add some resources to the chat, but that is all I have for today.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Maggie. That was a great overview. Next, we're going to hear from Anna Tang. She's with the League of American Bicyclists. And so that is a national organization. So following her, we're going to have Dave Simmons with Ride Illinois. So we'll go back to the state level. So with that, Anna, we'd love to hear your presentation.
Great. Can everybody see my screen? I'm assuming so, or else someone would say something.
Looks good. Looks
okay.
Good.
Thank you. I'm going to start by putting all of the links in the chat at once. I just think it'll be easier for people to click on them as they want to and as I go through my presentation. But I just want to start off at the top and say thank you for having me. My name is Anna Tang, and I work for the League of American Bicyclists. My title is Bicycle Friendly America Program Specialist, and my email is anna@bikeleague.org. That was a great presentation, and hearing from everybody already, I wanted to say up front that before I joined the league 2 years ago, I did community organizing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I am located, and I helped to run about 31 hyper-local grassroots neighborhood level community groups around biking and walking. So I am very familiar with all of the topics that you're all talking about, and it makes me excited to hear that there's so many in the Chicagoland area. However, though, now I work for the League of American Bicyclists, and we are the oldest national advocacy group for biking. We were founded in 1880 as the League of American Wheelmen, trying to help to get roads paved so that people who were out biking didn't get their wheels stuck in ruts. And so that's how we got started. We've gone through a lot of iterations, and now we are 13 people strong, and we are located in Washington, D.C. The main areas that we focus on for our work is education, advocacy policy, our Bicycle Friendly America programming, membership, and we have the annual National Bike Summit, which is coming up next week in Washington, D.C. So as a national network, we have a lot of resources, but we're also just in every single state. Illinois is one of our strongest states for having local groups and local people out biking, as well as bicycle friendly businesses, communities, and universities. The Bicycle Friendly America program, which is the area that I work in, we do bicycle friendly programming for at the state level, at the community level, for businesses and universities. Businesses can range from anywhere from a church to a school to what you would consider like your everyday business, like a coffee shop or a brewery, to just one person to like Fortune 500. So it's a very broad name for a business. What we do with this program is they're all online applications, and we use what we call the 5E criteria for people to evaluate themselves and for us to evaluate the community, business, or university. And then once you fill out that application and submit it online, there are several award levels that range from no award all the way up to diamond. Currently, we don't have any diamond communities, which is why it's not listed here, but we always want to give our platinum people somewhere to attain to be. Jumping into the next thing, because I want to keep this fairly brief so we can get on to the next speakers, is just talking a little bit about the resources that the League is able to offer. This is just a smattering overview of the stuff that we have, and we have a lot more here, but I thought that this would be the most useful for local community groups. We have a website called data.bikely.org, which has publicly available information to help you make the case at the local level with data. We also offer technical assistance, and what that basically means is like you can send us an email and we can set up a phone call with you to help you figure out what would be best for your neighborhood or your community or your business, and figuring out, like resources that might be useful, funding sources, walking you through like your bike plan and different things like that. But we're always available to help. Our website alone is like extremely useful as a resource. I know this screenshot has very small print, but it is just to remind you that you can go in there and take a look. We have resources under almost all of our drop downs, and each of those has like extensive groups of documents and other things that you can use for whatever work you're trying to do, or if you're trying to start a group, if you're looking for funding or anything. We have so many things linked there that just check out the website. Annually, what we've been able to do over the past 3 years is offer a community spark grant, which gives $1,500 to in between 12 to 15 community groups to spark change around better bicycling. This year, we were able to publish an idea book and the AARP Bike Audit Toolkit, and we do a biannual new majority report, which talks about who is biking. And then we're also available for in-person opportunities for a fee. So I thought I would share, talk a little bit about our bicycle-friendly community workshops, which is something that you can have a League member come out to your community and do. We use our 5E framework to do a customized agenda, which can go from 1 day to 2 days. It goes over, like I said, all of the 5 E's. It also includes a bike audit and then any in-person technical assistance that you'd like, such as visiting a site and having myself or whoever can come to your community, take a critical look, and bring all the players in your community together who would need to be in the discussion for making your community or that location better for biking. And that's something that we offer. This year is our first year of offering the bike advocacy training, which is actually our first one is happening next week, which we are very thrilled about. We're going to cover topics such as like how to be do effective advocacy, grassroots organizing, policy, storytelling, equity and justice, and a lot more. Next year, we're going to hopefully offer it 2 to 3 times, and the next one this year will be taking place sometime in July or August in Philadelphia. To go over our idea book very briefly, this is a great resource for people who want to have case studies of what lots of bicycle friendly communities are doing out on their streets and with their communities to help people in all of the 5E categories. So it gives great encouragement examples, equity examples, engineering, evaluation and planning, and encouragement to get people out and riding. And it's just a wide range of things that people are doing. We also have an accompanying map on our website, so you can see more examples than what would be able to fit in this online book. And so I encourage you to check that out. Something that we just published within the last year is the AARP Bike Audit Toolkit, which is a very hands-on guide to help people take a critical look and go step by step from getting your community to be more bike friendly. It goes through a lot of vocabulary and very basic things that not everybody is familiar with, including your council people, including, you know, your leaders and people in power who have the decision-making power. And it helps get everybody familiar with these concepts. And then it has accompanying worksheets, which help you actually evaluate your street or your block or whatever you're evaluating for the bike audit. And then it helps you compile it so that you have something nice to send to your decision makers. Finally, I wanted to just say that the best way to learn about all these resources and stay in touch with us is by subscribing to our newsletter. That's where we put out all of these announcements and really are able to connect with people. And so with that, I am done with this very short presentation. Like I said, there is a lot more on our website, and just by like emailing me, I knew that, you know, because it was short, I just wanted to give a smattering of some things that are available. There's a lot more out there, and I think the best way to get connected is to just send me an email. And also, one of the links that I put in the chat is to join our Bike Walk Advocacy Google group, which is a national network of bike advocates all across the country, where people are literally just asking questions, you know, like, how do I get funding for Safe Routes to School program? How, at the local level, what's the best way to do programming for Bike Month, et cetera? You know, so there's lots of things there, and our website is also a really great place to just find stuff and connect. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Beth.
Okay, Anna, thank you. That was fantastic. What we're all learning is that there are a lot of resources available to all of us. I think it's very cool that Illinois is known to be a good state for bike advocacy and biking. Could because it's flat, but it might also be because we've got a lot of really good people working together to make it a good place to bike. So with that, thank you very, very much, and good luck with your upcoming events, and let us know for sure if you're going to have one in Chicago, okay?
I'll hint at it, but there should be one next year in Chicago.
Okay, give us the notice and we'll get the people there. Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to turn over to Dave Simmons. He is with Ride Illinois. That is our state's very own leading bicycle advocacy group. And with that, Dave, tell us what we can learn and how we can partner with Ride Illinois, please.
Yes, happy to do so. Good to see many friendly faces and then also some new faces. I have probably the greatest job in the world because I get to work with Maggie and Anna and Phil and Ken. It's great to see the positive energy here. It's really something that we need to bring forth change in our state, positive change. So I want to run through an update of what Ride Illinois has been up to and share some information and resources with you all, including my contact information. But for those who may not be familiar, just wanted to start with an overview of mission and vision. Our mission is very simple. It's to make Illinois better through biking. I've been with the organization about 4.5 years. The mission was to make biking better in Illinois, and we just kind of flipped that on its side because we know that when communities are more bike friendly and more bikeable, everyone benefits, whether they ride a bike or not. The bullet points are some things that we're striving for. The third bullet point I will call out, Illinois is currently number 15 in the latest bicycle-friendly state rankings from the League of American Bicyclists, and we would like to be a top 5 state. So the work that you're doing at the local level, the regional level, it all kind of can help increase our standing when it comes to comparisons to other states. So that's certainly something that we're striving for in a way we can measure our impact. We're small but mighty. I think that's kind of the theme for nonprofits most days. We have 2 full-time staff, 3 part-time staff. Some of you may know Ed Barsati, who was our former executive director. He is still with the organization, working on a couple projects for us. Last year, our board developed a new strategic plan, and 2 things kind of rose to the top, if you will. One is an outward-facing goal, and the second was more inward-facing. The outward-facing is we want to decrease, ultimately eliminate fatalities, bicyclist fatalities. You may be familiar that there were 42 bicyclist fatalities last year, which is kind of crazy to think about, to be quite honest. It was up from 33 the year prior. So we're diving into some of the data that's available, working with partners to address that very big concern. And I should say that fatalities on Illinois roads the increase is not isolated to bicyclists. We've seen certainly through the pandemic, and then unfortunately kind of continuing pedestrians, motorcyclists, motorists. It's really something that affects basically any way we get around. The internal goal is really, how can we do more if we can raise some more funds, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. We have a board member who likes to reference BHAGs, or the big, hairy, audacious goal. So we want these to be audacious, but they're also worthwhile and necessary. We tend to focus on kind of 3 buckets, if you will: awareness, advocacy, and education. So I wanted to share just a few updates in those buckets with you all today, and then keep an eye on chat. We can answer any questions that come up. We do have, if you are a Ride Illinois member, I know many of you are, several of you are, our annual member meeting is coming up on April 20th. Information will be shared. It's actually coming out this week, so you'll learn about that. The thing I'm most excited about, and I think has a lot of potential as far as like changing hearts and minds and empowering people, is our I Can Bike There campaign. So if you go to icanbikethere.org or on social media, we're sharing photos and stories of folks who are using their bikes for everyday trips. And so the idea is, you ride somewhere, maybe not all that noteworthy, but you're going by bike, and you want to share a photo of you and your bike as you arrive. We've had about 150 submissions so far. It's a warm and fuzzy campaign, but we feel like it's got a potential to change the way folks think about using their bikes. Our regional action teams, the map on the right kind of shows how we broke the state up into 4 regions, and we've got folks from all those regions who meet every couple months to discuss matters that are pertinent to their region. And I'll mention the last 2 bullet points on a slide later on, a couple events that are coming up. From the advocacy level, this has become more of a focus of the organization in the last couple of years. We were fortunate to have great partners that kind of pushed the envelope on things, including Active Transportation Alliance. We feel we needed to step up. So our board formed an advocacy committee last year, and that committee is actively meeting. And I'll mention some priorities that they've determined here in just a moment. But some things we're looking at is the Great American Rail Trail. If you're not familiar, it goes from Washington, D.C. to Washington State, and there's some gaps in Illinois, including a 16-mile gap between the I&M Canal and the Hennepin Canal Trail. So we are working with local advocates. Again, though, that's the glue that makes any of these things happen, is the local advocates in their community on a way to fill that gap. Phase 1 engineering plan feasibility study was just completed, and it looks like at least 80% of it is not all that difficult to complete. A couple other things to call out here real quick. We have a state and federal bill tracker on our website that captures the active bills in DC and in Springfield that pertain to biking. So we maintain that. So ideally, you have a one-stop shop for legislation that's moving through at the federal and state level. The map here is all those pins or all those points are bicyclist fatalities. Maggie mentioned that suburban communities are now seeing a greater number of fatalities than within the city of Chicago. We also know that it's literally from Cairo to Zion. Those points are since 2018. We're taking a look at that data, trying to point out or call out trends to dive in a little bit deeper on past fatalities. And then when fatalities, unfortunately, there's been one already this year, happen, we're sharing news, not to be alarmist, not to get eyeballs to our site, but just to inform Illinois residents of these situations. And then legislative priorities, we're focused on an e-bike rebate or incentive program to give folks who can't otherwise afford an e-bike an opportunity to purchase one. Another focus is, as Maggie mentioned, reducing speeds. So we've shared bills from both Minnesota and Michigan that Minnesota passed. Michigan was recently introduced that will allow municipalities to reduce speed limits on the roads within their jurisdiction. It eases the burden in order to do so. So we feel like that has great potential in Illinois, and we're just trying to find that lawmaker who agrees with us. And then the third, Illinois is the only state in the country where bicyclists are permitted but not intended users of the road unless there are signs or infrastructure. So that's something that we've actually spoken with League of American Bicyclists about, People for Bikes, and we want to form a strategy to get that, what we see as a great error, corrected. At the federal level, we basically work with League of American Bicyclists. We'll be out in DC. I think we've got 12 delegates from Illinois heading out to DC for the National Bike Summit next week. And we'll be talking about the active transportation infrastructure program, talking about vulnerable road users and safety for vulnerable road users. So that's a great opportunity, something that I would highly recommend if you've not been. Go to the summit some year. It's always in March. And there's folks who have gone several times who can kind of get you up to speed, including when we go to, for Lobby Day, when we go speak with our elected officials. And I wanted to also call out, in June, I'm heading to the Youth Bike Summit in Pennsylvania. The National Youth Bike Council puts on this event. Someone mentioned earlier getting young people involved. They've got the secret sauce. And I've had the opportunity to work with some folks from the National Youth Bike Council for the last almost year, and hoping to learn from them and then bring tools back to Illinois so we can make progress and connect with other young folks within our state and really get some momentum within the young people. Education is the last bucket that we talk about. I'm going to share a couple resources in the chat, including our bike safety quiz. That quiz through a grant program reached 66,248 students last school year, which was 27% higher than any year prior. So we know there's an appetite for bike education and safe walk education in schools. That's a conversation we've been having with the Illinois State Board of Education. Don't have like exciting news to share, but the conversations continue. We want to make that content available to schools no matter where they are. We do awareness campaigns on social media. This time of year, folks are pulling their bikes out of their garage, maybe for the first time in months. So that just changes dynamics on the road. We want folks to arrive at their destination no matter how they choose to get there. So some awareness campaigns can certainly help do that. And then as you're doing events in your community or with a club or whatever kind of organization, we have a materials request on our website. It's all the materials that we've developed, educational, awareness materials are all available at no cost. Again, I'll put the link in the chat. So that's something that you can use to enhance your events. And then the Ride Illinois Safely program is something we developed a few years ago. We work exclusively with league cycling instructors, and LCI, if you're familiar with that acronym. And we're basically making education courses and resources available and accessible around the state. Since its inception, we've received 77 requests for courses, and we're at about a 70 to 75% completion rate as far as connecting them with an instructor to make the course happen. So we're really hoping to promote the skills that these LCIs have, and also fulfill the need that we know that's out there in the society. A few events, the ones in red are not our events, but they are ones that Ride Illinois is actively involved with, including next week at the National Bike Summit. I mentioned the annual member meeting in April. Ride of Silence, I'm sure many are familiar. That'll be on May 15th this year, so I encourage you to plan a ride in your community. Our big fundraiser is the Grand Illinois Bike Tour. That's coming up in June. I'm actually leaving, bailing on the end of that to head out to Pennsylvania for the Youth Bike Summit, which is again by the National Youth Bike Council. And then Maggie mentioned scheduling and offering community rides, so rides in your community, casual, family-friendly, fun, welcoming events. We have an event we call Let's Ride, Illinois. That's coming up in September, where we encourage you to schedule those rides and then tell us about them, and we're able to share them out and promote the good work that you're doing locally. And then a little bit of a tease for next year, pretty much settled, I think, that right now, but April 2nd and 3rd is what it's looking like. Illinois Bike Walk Summit is a working title. We're working with Active Trans. We're working with several other organizations to offer a summit in Springfield, which ideally will include maybe not so far as a lobby day, but a meeting with elected officials. So that 2-day event, that's what's planned for next April, and we've been meeting several times already to kind of get the wheels spinning on that. Some invitations to get involved. Yeah, sign up for emails. You can find us on social media. Send us your I Can Bike There story. You know, we love hearing from folks there. We are a membership organization and certainly would appreciate your support. And then our RAT team, which is the regional action team, if you remember back to that map, or join a committee, we really want folks to be involved because we know you have the ideas and the energy that can help propel the organization to making good things happen in communities across the state. My contact information, which happy to chat or reply to an email. And then finally, yeah, just time for questions, which I think we'll either save for the end or you put them in the chat. And Beth, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you very, very much. There is so much going on that we can all be involved with. Finding bikers at farmers markets, train stations, if groups want to gather and talk to other people who bike. Also from our local community, we know that we can partner with our village, our park district, our schools, even our faith communities. There was a big movement in Glenview called Walk and Roll to Worship in May. That's a really great way to start. All of the speakers that have talked about the advocacy and education are doing such great work. And when you look at what's happening, you may find that there's not much happening in your community. So this is an amazing opportunity to step up in your community, partner with these national and state groups and Chicagoland groups, and really help move this along. Okay, we're running a little late, but we're going to now hear briefly from Phil Kaplan. Phil has been collecting bicycles and raising awareness and getting bikes into the hands of people who might not otherwise be able to have them. So Phil, 2 to 3 minutes if you don't mind. And then Barbara, a minute or two. Okay.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks a lot for having me. What wasn't mentioned is not only do we have groups that are local, regional, statewide, but Working Bikes is international. But we're also very local. We're located here in Chicago. But people can't bike if they don't have a bicycle. And that's where we come in. We're also involved in bike advocacy, bike repair. We're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary on October 5th, which will be at Working Bikes. Put that in your calendar. We're a 501c3 organization. And I've put down there a couple of links, one to Working Bikes donations. It shows all the donation drop-off sites in the metro area and beyond, where you can drop off a bike. So the least anyone can always do is donate a bike if they have an old one, let people know where they can donate a bike. And then also I left the other link, Working Bikes About, and that has our annual report, which shows that last year we donated 11,000 bicycles. 9,000 of them went to Africa and Central America and to Mexico via shipping containers, 500 at a time. If you ever want to lend a hand when we have what we call a shipping party, you can come down to Working Bikes. Doesn't take a lot of bike mechanic skills, but you can help load a bike on a shipping container, bring a bike down, and you can empower people all over the world. So what you could also know about is doing a bike drive. We've worked with a number of you already, such as the Wilmette plant sale and other events, the Glenview Farmers Market, where we do events where we collect bikes. You can also host a bike drive that you can put together. We have information on our website under that donations link that I had. So you can do a bike drive and collect adult bikes in repairable condition and gently used kids' bikes, bike parts, bike tools. If you need to find out any more, you can always contact me. I'm at phil@workingbikes.org. And I think my personal email is listed with the rest of the group. So I wanted to keep it short. If there are any additional questions, happy to work with any of you to collect bikes. My title currently is dual. I am known as the Working Bikes president of the board, but only for one more month. But I will always be known as the bike schlepper. So contact me, donate a bike to Working Bikes, have an event, and let's get more bikes into the hands of people who need them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Phil. Really appreciate it. Okay, we're so excited. We have really quick talk by Barbara Miller of EBC, just a minute or so to tell us Evanston Bike Club has members from many, many different communities. And then we're going to hear very quickly from the Bike Palatine Club. Barbara, do you want to sign on and tell us really quickly about some of the grants that might be available from EBC? Thanks, Phil.
I thought I was signed on.
Yes, you are signed on.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Interested to hear about the I Can Bike There campaign. I'm all in favor of that. One of the things that the Bike Club has done, started during the pandemic, was to create a series of bike local routes. There's a link that I put in the top of the chat to where that can be found in our route library. It's available. They're available to the public. And I'd be happy to work with any community in our broad area. As Beth mentioned, we go from Chicago a ways west, a ways north of Evanston. And they were intended to get people out and around casually at whatever speed they want. There are usually some points of interest in your local community. So some of them highlight all kinds of parks or landmarks. We got some separate architecture tours. And I would also highlight Ride with GPS, which we use extensively as a club for ways to figure out how to get there. I Can Bike There is great, but if you're stuck with, gee, I don't know how to bike there, Ride with GPS is a great tool. You do have to open an account. Starter accounts are free. The other thing the Bike Club does, when we have money left over from the North Shore Century, which we put on every year, have been for 35 years. The grant window is now open. These are small grants. And they must involve cycling in some way, shape, or form. I've put a link there too in the chat up front. You can go to the Bike Club website and hit the application button, and you'll find the parameters that apply to the grants for this year. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Then finally, we'd love to hear from Bike Palatine, and then we'll start with our Q&A.
Hi, my name is Tom Lucas. I am the current president of Bike Palatine. We've been around since 2012. We're an advocacy group. We started as an advocacy group and morphed into a club. We've been instrumental in getting about 26 miles of shared street riding in place. We hold 30 casual rides per summer, 15 on Tuesdays, 15 on Thursdays. My goal as ride leader has been to show people that there's streets that they can ride on in the village. We also have 4 longer weekend rides and 3 banner rides that we do. Not big. And like Ken stated early in the call, we need youth. That's the biggest thing. So, and one last thing to throw out there, if you want to get more traction from your club, try co-opting with the library for displays during bike month in May. We've done that the last few years, and it seems like it's gotten us a little bit of traction. And that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, libraries are great partners, park districts as well. Some of your local camps could maybe encourage kids to bike to camp. If your school doesn't have a bike or walk to school week, that is something that would be great to work with a PTO to put in place. So we've had so many great speakers, and most of them are here available to answer your questions. Kim Stone and our intern, Karen Schroeder, are going to be helping with the Q&As. Turning this over to Kim.
Okay, thank you all for amazing presentations. I'm going to just go real quickly through these. So Maggie, someone commented about the Niles Howard Street project, a shining example of what's possible in the suburbs. Is there more history you can share about how this came to be?
Yeah, I put a link of a webinar where the village planner spoke more about the history, I believe, of the project and the outcomes of the project. So I don't think I can really speak to the details. That was a couple of years ago, but I encourage you to check out that webinar for more details. And actually, I'd kind of like to follow up with the Village of Niles to get any follow-up reports about the project, but I know I've heard great things about it. So,
okay, well, we will point people towards that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little more about what the street team participants do?
Yeah, so the street team is, really focused on introducing people to our top campaigns. So the Safe Streets for All and Transit That Works, as well as the greenhouse gas clean and equitable transportation campaign. So it's providing you an overview, and then it's really like getting you more involved in those particular campaigns, and as well as connected with other advocates and kind of creating a team of advocates together. We're really focused right now on state policy, so getting you more involved in that. And it's in addition to it's really an overview of what we're working on and how you can get involved. And then there are additional opportunities once you become a street team member to do deep dives in specific topics. We're going to have later this month, we're having a call with one of our lobbyists who works down in Springfield and advocates for active transportation. And we're doing a social in April. So there are just other opportunities to connect with like-minded advocates who care and have a passion for walking, biking, and transit.
Okay. We also, one thing I wanted to mention, Kim is looking, please put your questions in the chat. Kim is looking through the chat, and she will post your questions.
Everybody has been great at answering the questions that are in the chat. So,
but I think we'd like to read out those answers, because most people aren't necessarily following the chat. So if you could, Kim, do that, that would be great.
Okay. So Beth had asked about liability for organized rides and how a small group can protect itself. And Dave had recommended purchasing insurance through American Specialty through the League of American Bicyclists. I know that we did a small group ride in Highland Park, and what we did was we had people just sign waivers saying that we were not responsible. Beth asked, can groups that are not 501c3s get grants from the League of American Bicyclists? And the answer to that is that no, individuals can't receive funds, but 501c3 and government groups can. Are there other questions that I'm missing? And if anyone has a question they haven't put in the chat, if you can use the raise hand feature, we can get to it that way.
Of the Community Spark Grant, that was interesting. Anna has something to say about that. She's just putting in the chat. But one thing I wanted to mention is that in Wilmette, we've had really great success doing bike shows. There are so many cool bikes, cargo bikes, tandem bikes, trailer bikes, EV bikes. Even the barrier between bikes and vehicles is getting a little blurry with electric bikes and scooters. People really like to see cool bikes. So that is a fun thing that doesn't cost any money. We do ours in conjunction with the EV show. And so it really adds some energy to that show to put bikes and EVs together.
And we will have EVs at the Highland Park EV show.
You'll have bikes.
E-bikes. We will have e-bikes at the EV show on the 27th of April.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if are there any questions anymore, Kim?
I don't see any more questions. Yeah, but I want to just thank all of the speakers for being here and for staying through the Q&A. I think there was a lot of good information shared, and hopefully groups will be able to use that to go back in their communities and create change.
Because we do have bikers everywhere. If a Go Green group, an environmental group can line up some cyclists and help them, you can send the link to this program, which will be live by tomorrow. Say, hey, you want to just look at what's going on? We don't have anything going in our community. Let's see if we can't get a few cyclists to start a informal group. The group in Wilmette is not a 501c3. We don't get donations. Quite frankly, we do a lot of work with absolutely no money, and that works too. We do rides where we say we're not really leading the ride, so we don't even use waivers. We simply say, come bike with us. We're not really leading it. That's how we get around that. So with that, we can start a few. We might have some community reports. Also wanted, if there are leaders here, we are going ahead with a tour of the Park District of Oak Park. That is going to be for Park District staff, commissioners, and decision makers. It's not open to the general public, but if you're a leader, look out for an invitation where we're going to ask you to forward it to your Park District folks. So with that, leaders, if you want to sign off, or speakers, feel free to sign off. And if you would like to give a community report, I hope you put your name in the chat, or we may call on you. This is where we have a chance to hear what's going on in other communities and share. I'll start off because while you put your name in the chat, if you'd like to give a report, if you have something that you think others can learn from or share, please be sure, or a challenge that you'd like to get help with. In Wilmette, we are discovering as more and more groups all over are putting on great programs, we're able to send our folks in Wilmette to programs nearby, whether that's Highland Park or Glenview or Evanston. There are a lot of really great programs. We just did a recycling program with LRS, although I expect a lot of the information would be relevant even if you had waste management or a different hauler. It's available on the Go Green Wilmette YouTube. It's already been viewed. We had an in-house, in-person audience, a virtual simultaneous program. In the recorded program has already had 193 views. So if you're doing programs, I would really encourage you to try to figure out how you can combine those three versions, or at least two of the three, so that you can get more people watching your good programs with less effort. We're having a native plant sale on May 11th. You're all welcome to come or copy it. We have manuals for how to do a native plant sale, how to do a yard tour. Get to me and we can send you a manual to help you do that more easily. We're also having a repair cafe on April 20th. Believe it or not, we have a hard time finding people with stuff that needs fixing because of our throwaway society. So send your folks with broken stuff to Wilmette on April 20th. So that's my report. What other communities would like to give reports?
I will report for Highland Park, and I don't know if Liz, if you're still on, if you want to report for Winnetka.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay.
I never know which way you're going to start. So we're at Go Green Winnetka, we're ramping up for summer programming. We're starting to work on farmers market tabling. We have a Yards That Work sustainable yard tour that will be Sunday, July 14th. And then our third, fall native plant sale will be Saturday, September 7th. It's always the Saturday after Labor Day. So we're excited about that and starting to do the planning for both of those events. And then the big news in the village is that this month we should see the posting for our full-time sustainability coordinator that will be hired by the village of Winnetka.
Okay, Dor, did you want to say anything for Friends of the Green Bay Trail?
And while Dor signs on, if you're from Arlington
Hi.
Heights, Buffalo Grove, Deerfield, DeKalb, Des Plaines, Downers Grove, A through D, you're up next if you're interested.
Hi,
Dor? Yeah.
can you hear me? Yeah. I don't know if you can see me, but that's okay. I can't figure it out right now.
That's good.
I just wanted to say, as residents who can go to village hall meetings and zoning meetings, we have the power to influence how the villages zone these huge properties that are coming available to developers, like the Hoover Estate in Glencoe. When they first proposed what they were doing, there were no sidewalks in the entire 29 house community. So, and we're getting golf courses and all kinds of things that people are going to develop. So I think we should have our 2 cents in at the very beginning, talking about making it walkable and rideable and safe for the kids. That's one thing, just me personally. For Friends of the Green Bay Trail, we are having a talk at through the Zoom at the Glencoe Library on cicadas, which will be kind of fun. You got to wear a mask when you're riding this summer because you're going to be eating cicadas while you're bicycling. And I don't have the date right now. You'll see it at the Glencoe Library and on our website. Thank you very much.
Great. So anyone from towns beginning with A through D?
You know, Beth, I was just looking at the list of people who are still on because there's a lot of people dropped off at 2.
Okay.
I know that Ralph wanted to say something. But
Yeah, Ralph. Yes, Buffalo Grove. And if there's no one from Evanston, I'm going to mention something better for Evanston. So let's go with Ralph next. Ralph is a journalist. He is the bicycle columnist for the Daily Herald.
Thanks, Beth and Kim. One of the things that I was asked to listen and then try to summarize towards the end, and one of the insights I had from all the speakers is the importance of creating alliances, even from the very beginning. I think Tom Lucas in Palatine mentioned cooperation with our library. You wouldn't think of a library as a place where you might get a lot of bikers involved, but having the visibility that a library has gives organizations, whether it's a bike club or any organization, a lot of exposure with people coming in and walking out with books and videos and things like that. The other thing that I think would be important is to remember that Rome was not built in a day, and a lot of these activities that groups are trying to get, whether they're advocacy groups or bike groups or a combination of them, takes some time. Especially if you're trying to get infrastructure built. There's all kinds of engineering things, design phases that need to be, processed. Once even, the idea has been accepted by the municipality, and then there's the funding part. So, we've had some people that started off with our Bike Palatine Club that left early because they couldn't get something done in 6 months. Well, it takes 6 years sometimes to get good ideas done and to make sure that they're well thought out and funded, et cetera, et cetera. So those are some of the things I would just, mention to people who are trying to get something off the ground to go. And it's been sort of my experience, writing the column and interviewing people across the metro area, that it seems to be a common thread.
thank you. 6 years, I've got to laugh at 6 years. I was working on a complete streets policy in Highland Park for, I believe, 4 or 5 years. And then I decided to run for city council so that I could make it happen. And we finally got it to happen. But that was like 15 years later. Buffalo Grove. Someone from Buffalo
Yes.
had their hand up.
Yes, my name's Jeff Weiss. My wife Martha and I founded the Buffalo Grove Environmental Action Team 16 years ago. We kind of lost track of time, so we're just celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. But we have been involved in having an annual green fair for the past 12 years. Phil Kaplan is there to schlep bikes raised in our community each year. We started a native tree and shrub arboretum in one of our community parks. We put on road cleanups and do Earth Day and National Night Out and other events throughout the year. But recently we've had a number of new members join who are interested in a range of causes. We coordinate with our village government for their sustainability plan, but up till now it's been largely inward looking. And so we're trying to figure out how best to get our members involved in their favorite policy issue with respect to sustainability and environmental improvement in our community. And we're trying to decide right now how to best do that, whether to form task forces under the umbrella of our environmental action team, whether to try to promote formation of a Go Green or other separate policy related group, or agitate to get a sustainability commission formed within Buffalo Grove. So we're hopeful of being more involved in your group, which Rosemary Heineman and I've been to prior meetings. But just a little update that we hope you'll hear more from us in coming years.
Great. If you're not signed up, I know Rosemary had sent the invitation. If you're not signed up for our email newsletters, go ahead and you can sign up on our website.
Thank you.
But glad to see Buffalo Grove is back. Brad, did you want to report on Park Ridge? You're on mute.
There it is. I couldn't find the button. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Brad. I'm from Park Ridge. I've been working out there doing some bike advocacy. Yes, Ralph and others made some very smart remarks about how it is a long-term plan. I'm learning that as well, but still we're excited to be doing it. In our town, just as a point of reference, the bike infrastructure work, a lot of it, or the discussion of that work, falls under the purview of the Sustainability Commission, which is a city commission. So we do have the year of the city council and the mayor. Like other towns, we have certain limits to the resources, right? So we have to pick and choose our projects. But we do have a bike plan. That was one of the questions coming into the meeting. And we are gradually implementing things in the bike plan. We're also doing a number of other things. We're promoting Bike Month. One of the things from the bike plan, I forgot to mention, we have a plan in place to start laying down sharrows, which was one of the things in the bike plan we hadn't done. We're promoting Bike Month. We do have a complete streets policy. It was actually put into place without consultation with the Sustainability Commission. So hopefully we can have a look through that and make sure, I mean, I'm sure we'll support it, but if we have any thoughts or input to that, we would definitely like to review that in the coming months. And I am doing some other things. I'm researching grant opportunities for an upcoming project, trying to garner support in my community to more safely connect our community to the Des Plaines Trail. I met recently with Cook County Commissioner Maggie to talk about region-wide bike routes, and she's a big supporter of ours as well. All of our communities were in her region, so definitely encourage people to reach out to her. And other than that, we're doing community rides as well. Some of you guys mentioned that, and we are going to try and expand this summer. We had a small start last year. We're going to try and grow it this year. And we even got Ralph to come out to one, so that was exciting. And hopefully we can get some more of you guys to come join us in Park Ridge sometime. Try and do all the same things you guys are trying to do, make biking more prominent, safer, et cetera.
Great. For the Complete Streets policy, there are sample policies on, I believe, the Active Trans website and the National Complete Streets Network. And also, I think on CMAP, I put the link to that in the chat. So take a look at those. Highland Park finally passed a new complete streets policy just a few months ago, and we were really disappointed. The bike community was involved, but unfortunately, it passed with a lot of exceptions. So there are some roads that are exempt from that policy, which is kind of makes it not a complete streets policy by definition. But because it's either all the streets or it's not a complete streets policy, in my mind. So definitely take a look at the examples, because if you can get them to pass something good based on an example elsewhere, that's always the best. Gia, do you want to report on anything in Morton Grove? Or no?
Sure. I don't have a huge report here. I'm just so excited to see a biking event and like this meeting here today. We apparently, before I moved here, had a very active biking group in Morton Grove, and they all burnt out. So even though they will come to our Go Green meetings, they're like really not interested in starting again. They have been either burned by the village or burned by just the amount of time and effort that they put in without seeing good progress. But seeing this today has really inspired us that maybe biking needs to be one of our top priorities again, because we've really been focusing on other areas, native plants and trees, and getting a strong tree ordinance in the village. But this is very exciting to see other groups coming together. The one thing I wanted to mention is sort of through the ether, someone had mentioned that they were interested in our sustainable way of creating our merch at Go Green Morton Grove. And so I would like to put out there, I'll put my email in the chat, that I'm happy to teach anybody what our program is. And I'm happy to give others a quick tutorial, whether that's in person or I could do some sort of Zoom call. But it's a great way. We use all recycled t-shirts, and we self-print them with block printing with safe inks. And we've done this at a few events. Every time we have something, we sort of create an event where people can create their own t-shirts. And it's been hugely successful and essentially free. So it's a great way. And we just have people make their own. We don't even charge for this. You can bring your own t-shirt. You can bring your own bag. We've had people bring tea towels. And it's really just having somebody who's moderately crafty create your block print. And I even employed my son to make ours. So it was great. And I'd be happy to teach others, because it's a really fun way to get your community involved. And we see those t-shirts and stuff and merch all over town. And we didn't have to invest any money in it. So put my email in the chat for anybody.
I think that's such a great idea. So if any groups are interested, that's great to know. We have a plant sale where we suddenly have a lot of volunteers that don't have Go Green Wilmette t-shirts, and it's hard to know who's working, who's not. So I realized that if you bought inexpensive green bandanas, which is our color, you could just put them around people's necks, take them back at the end of the sale, and keep using that as a very visible way. You also could find green things at secondhand stores. But that's another way to quickly identify. We don't sell our Go Green Wilmette t-shirts. Most of them would end up sitting in someone's drawer most of the time. So that's not very sustainable. So sometimes we're trying to figure out how to identify our volunteers a different way.
Yeah.
Kim, do you have anything else you want to report?
Yeah, I forgot at the beginning to report on this, that at last night's city council meeting, I got to get rid of my virtual background. We had a few proclamations issued, including the proclamation for Dark Sky Week, which I have here, which I got to keep. We also did a proclamation for the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, and mentioned our EV car show. In terms of what else is going on in Highland Park, there's a big fight over a potential sidewalk. Apparently there's quite a few people in the neighborhood who are very upset about the sidewalk, and it actually came down to, at last night's meeting, there were people on both sides who came to the council meeting, including a couple of 13-year-old children who got yelled at as they were exiting the meeting by some of the neighbors. So I need to deal with that today and see what we can do to fix that, because that's just uncalled for. So some of the anti-bike people actually yelled at the children who wanted bikes on their street.
Kim, can I say, related to sidewalks, Ann Nagel from Bike Walk Wilmette did a really good job of changing our bike walk policy at
Well,
a time when there was nothing controversial that was getting voted on, and that is the time to do it. So now it's easier to put sidewalks in our community, which is great. Although right now I did listen to someone who said that if the village put a sidewalk on village property that's in her front yard, but village property, she would sell her house and leave Wilmette. So people feel very strongly about sidewalks, even if they walk on them all the time themselves.
Well, we changed our sidewalk policy as well, based on your sidewalk policy a couple of years ago, at a time when there was nothing going on. And so now the people who are opposed to the sidewalk are upset that we changed the sidewalk policy and are talking about how it's unfair.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
current sidewalk policy. So, you know, they'll glom onto anything. You know, some people are saying that it's anti-environmental to have sidewalks because trees might have to come down in order to put in the sidewalks. And then people are saying it's dangerous to have sidewalks because if people don't clear the snow on the sidewalks, then someone could slip.
Right.
These are the types of arguments being used. They were also talking about water infiltration, that it'll provide, it's more impermeable surface. So there'll be flooding in the neighborhood if we put in sidewalks. It's really crazy. Yep.
So it's 2:40. Are there any other reports from groups? If you are a group leader and you have a topic that you would like Kim and the two of us to consider for future topics for meetings, please let us know. We don't have a topic yet for May, but we always come up with one. So Kim, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah, I think that is it. We may be having a block printing demo at the next meeting. We'll have to see. But do check out, there's some new posts on our website on the Electrify pledge or the Go Electric pledge. And also a post about sustainable travel and sustainable fashion written by Karen, our intern. And those are good topics that we hadn't covered before. So take a look at those.
Yeah.
Our next
Oh,
meeting-
and if you've ever had trouble finding resources on the website, Karen and Kim have spent a lot of time reorganizing the website to make everything more accessible to our members.
And our next meeting is May 14th. If you're not signed up already for our email list, please sign up. That's the only way you get notice of the meetings. And have a good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, we can stop the recording.